It's okay. We have a working mic, so don't worry.
That one works. Does that work?
Again?
just residents of this little rock that we all live on. We have to understand the issues confronting us, and in order to do that, we need to read the news, see what's going on, so we can make decisions. So I think what we're going to do is ask the panel very quickly to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get going.
Hey. So I am Dr. Brent Hale. I actually am in charge of this particular class. And so this worked out because I didn't have to get dragged into the studio. You came to me, which was awesome. And so I'm a social media specialist and also a media psychologist. And I am also a, somewhat occasional consumer of news, something that we should probably all care about.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm Dr. Anne Marie Connell. I'm the director of the School of Interdisciplinary Studies and Professional Development. If you want to build your own major, come talk to me. I'm also director of the Nonprofit Studies program, so civic engagement is sort of my thing. And also my home discipline is actually sociology.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Press, and I'm a just retired professor from USM after 22 years, and I'm doing some community service and writing a book. But basically, while I was here, I was teaching human rights, race and politics, women's human rights, and that kind of thing. When people ask me, what did I teach, I said I taught trouble.
Hi, my name is Gracie Solomon. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a junior right now. I'm graduating December 2026, so next year. My major is forensic science with an emphasis in biological sciences, and my minor is criminal justice. And I'm the president for the Criminal Justice Student Association and the treasurer for Delta Delta Epsilon, which is the honor society for forensic science.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jathan Kamajiz. I'm a senior communication major from Laurel, Mississippi. This is my second time on the show, so I'm really excited to be back. That's all for me.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadine Samara. I'm a Palestinian American USM student. I'm a senior here and I'm a philosophy major that is heavily involved in human rights activism, mostly off campus because, I'm trying to keep it civil here. I don't know what y'all are into, I don't know, how that's gonna go down, but yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. What a great panel. So I appreciate that. So we do have a special theme. Normally on the show, what happens is that we bring our students in and we have a chat about what's in the news. What are they hearing? What's in their circle? And we talk about kind of the issues that are confronting us as a society, kind of basically from the headlines. But this is a special edition where we do have a theme, and we're calling it Processing the Moment. So the idea is, what's the moment, right? So I tried to break it down, and I'm looking at Dr. Press here. Here's some elements of trying to process the moment, right? So what we're seeing in the news and what we're seeing in our institutions across society, a breakdown in norms, and we're going to give some examples about that. This bizarre anti-DEI, anti-diversity, equity, inclusion movement, a breakdown in the rule of law, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means, a breakdown of society based on facts. And I think that that's a really interesting area. And finally, a breakdown in fundamental rights, such as free speech, and some breakdown in norms directly affecting higher education. And finally, if we have time, we do have a breaking news in the K-pop Demon Hunters saga. It's very, yeah. What is it? Do you know what it is?
Me?
They're going to be on Fortnite?
Being added to Fortnite? Is that the big news?
That wasn't what I had, but is it? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening now.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so I'm being signaled. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back. We probably will not be right back with K-pop Demon Hunters, although later we'll pick it up.
Southern Miss Student Media, SM2, presents the 2025 Southern Miss Student Media Open House. Tuesday, October 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor of College Hall on the USM campus. Come and see the different divisions of Southern Miss Student Media. See how we can help you spread the word about your business through the different media outlets operated by Southern Miss Student Media. Stop by sm2media.com under About and RSVP to register to win advertising packages from SM2. The 2025 Southern Miss Student Media Open House, Tuesday, October 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor of College Hall. See you there. Recognition for your business or product, appreciation from a dedicated audience, and establishing yourself as a caring member of the Hattiesburg community are only a few of the benefits of sponsoring programming on WUSM. In addition, our very cost-effective underwriting rates are tax deductible. To learn more about the upsides of underwriting programming on WUSM, call 601-266-4287.
We are back, I believe, and as usual, we talked through the break, and as usual, I'm not paying very close attention to my producer, so we're gonna get better as we go along here. So let's kind of start from the top. So this breakdown in norms. So a norm, of course, is just an unwritten rule of society, how we're supposed to behave toward each other. So here's just a couple of headlines, and I'm going to ask our panel to kind of weigh in here. Tell us what you think. Tell us maybe what our USM students are thinking, and what's our reaction to some of this stuff, right? So New York Times, of course, and this is in general, there's a whole bunch of headlines about Democrats and Republicans as enemies, not the loyal opposition. So a lot of what you're seeing in the news is not normal. There was a story just this week. President Trump, has mocked Democratic leaders of the House and Senate by posting fake AI videos that were condemned as racist and bigoted, including one that showed Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader in the House, with a fake mustache and a sombrero. They then put those videos on loop in the press room at the White House. So there's been a variety of headlines around the world. Secretary of Defense, now War, calls himself Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, chastising an auditorium of 800 top military leaders, saying he wants, quote, no more fat generals, and that the U.S. military are now war fighters who will adhere to meal standards of physical performance. So on and on and on, lots of different headlines like this. So this idea of challenge the norms. What the United States has these unwritten rules of this is how we behave, this is how we talk to each other, and those are being shattered. What are we thinking? Am I on base here or not?
I've been handed the mic. I guess that means that I'm speaking first. So yeah, I mean, there's this shared kind of consensus that we know that things are broken. It doesn't really matter who you talk to, and there's this kind of understanding that things are just not right, and that we shouldn't be like this, and that we shouldn't be so oppositional, and we shouldn't hate each other, but that's being actively fueled at the same time to say, like, no, we actually should hate each other. We should be very angry. It's not really like you're just someone I disagree with. It's I hate you. Like, I actively just hate you. You're a terrible person. You shouldn't exist. And that sort of rhetoric is just normalized to such an extent that this is inevitable. We're going to have stuff like this. It's quite a desperate situation, I would argue.
Wow, where to start? Well, I mean, I guess one thing to start is, I think one of the things that you brought up is social media, how much social media has affected this. Because in fact, I mean, if you look historically over like the last 100 years, we haven't actually always been very nice to each other. It's just that we're not nice to each other on a worldwide stage, the way we're not nice to each other now on a worldwide stage, and how, it's like the piranhas come in anytime you post online. So I think part of what's going on is, I mean, norms are always changing. That's what norms do. As our values change, or, we adjust, or, the political situation changes. But I think definitely this ability, and I think maybe that's the big norm that's changed, is the administration putting things out on social media the way it does, policy by social media it's been called. But then again, social media didn't really exist the way it existed now. So it's like we're testing all of these things out as the technology changes.
Professor, I have to agree with you mostly, but I would hold out one exception, and that is that I think the students are in a rare position to be able to dial down the dialogue a little bit. There are groups on campus that represent different points of view, and I welcome them, and we all should. But I think the key to being effective, and most student groups want to be effective, they want to be heard, is to talk softly and be open to arguments, some of them not so easily stated and others not. So keeping calm as a student leader is important. And remember, all students, everyone in here who's a student, is in a bubble that's soon going to pop. It's called graduation. And then you need to learn how to do something that I'm still trying to do, is talk to my neighbor. Okay, we talk kind of like this, you know, but we don't talk seriously. So you have an opportunity, and I guess that would be my starting point here. We need healing in the dialogue. Actually, have you ever been on a trip and you say, oh, I went on a trip, and you start to say, I like that, and you can see them counting the seconds, and then as soon as you're over, say, well, lie. That's not dialogue. But I think you're in a position, having been very aware of some of these issues, to start dialogues.
And see, this is something that I noticed recently in those discussions on a SMTV post. It was about that Charlie Kirk vigil that happened. It was very politically divided, where it was the Democrats on campus or the people that just didn't like Charlie Kirk being like, oh, so all of this happened and all this, and y'all hate all of this, and then all of the Republicans or the people that were in the Turning Point Club or all of this were like, no, actually this, and we're going at each other's throats. And it was the most like filled comment section I had ever seen on an SMTV post ever. It was crazy. And it was just like there was nobody listening whatsoever, and people were just blocking each other. It was just crazy.
Yeah, and this is what we're seeing across the country. So what she's referring to, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's just a really straightforward news story covering a memorial for Charlie Kirk here on campus.
And, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
But it's like, that's just how media should be. Media is like covering both sides. It's a nonpartisan source. This is a nonpartisan source, but that's just my opinion.
It's really interesting because recently I was working on this research paper. I was doing a research paper, and my topic was if students were afraid to discuss like political things on campus. He's nodding his head hard over there because it's for his class, but it was really interesting because my main idea was that I figured that students don't want to talk about politics because it's just such a harsh subject and it can really escalate just depending on the environment you're in. And I found out that, spoilers, I found out that a lot of students are very willing to talk about politics, but when they do, it's like walking on eggshells. They're very particular, very like intentional about what they say and how they say it. They're not going to be super vocal about what they're going to say. It's like they're presenting in a way that's going to be more palatable for everyone to consume and where everyone gets out with like all their fingers on their hand. So it's really interesting that earlier we were talking about just how much it escalated on that post, because I feel like now, especially with everything going on in the world, it's really difficult to have those kind of conversations just because how fast it can like snowball into something else entirely.
And I think that that's relevant to, you know, the times that we've done this live show or even trying to find people on a regular basis. Like, a lot of students don't want to do this. They don't want to talk about politics because there's such a risk involved in having these conversations and being a part of these conversations. But like having these conversations is how we work through this stuff. We have to engage in a dialogue, right? You can't just ignore this and just, I don't want to deal with it. Like, we have to deal with this. And so I think it's very interesting you bring that up. But yeah, there is this very clear timidness about talking about politics, but we have to. We have to.
I think all of you made really amazing points and like pointed out issue with what is going on, but I think that something that we need to point out is that every single bit of this, the political climate and the way it is now, is very deliberate. The end goal is for us to be divided right now, is for us to view others and their opinions as like completely opposite from ours, and this is all deliberate. And like yesterday, shout out to USM Theater, I watched Rhinoceros, and I think that it helped me realize something beautiful. So I'm gonna just explain a little bit about what happened on the show. So these divisions, these small divisions about like things that go on is distracting us from bigger things that we collectively agree on, and we know we agree on, but we just can't agree on how to view it. And so in the show, people were turning into rhinoceroses, but the characters were too busy arguing about whether it was one rhinoceros or two, or whether it had one horn or two horns, and they were ignoring the fact completely that people were just turning into rhinoceroses. Like, we're arguing about small things that is distracting us and like not allowing us to see the full picture. And if we continue going down this rabbit hole, we are allowing like the division to control us and to control the narrative and to continue to do what it is doing. And the end result will be something that I don't think any of us are expecting, because like you mentioned, the social media, this is a new age, this is something we've never seen before. So we don't even know what the result of the continued division will be if we keep seeing the world as polar. We shouldn't even interact with one another as like someone who thinks differently than me. We should interact as someone who is connecting with people, because that's what we're here to do. We're in a community, we're in a university together, and we've allowed these things that have happened to separate us, when if we came together as a collective, we could achieve a lot more, because if we really got to the root of it, we agree pretty much on the same things.
Yeah, interesting. So part of this breakdown in norms I'm going to throw in here is this anti-DEI movement. So DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. States across the South and the Midwest actually have passed a series of laws, all of them stemming from 3 executive orders that President Trump issued. So again, so this is a series of headlines over the past really 7-8 months. He did this in his first hours of being president. Each one called DEI programs illegal, which is really interesting. So I kind of went and sought some other information. So from the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, which is a 75-year-old organization that has looked at civil rights since before there actually were civil rights. And this is what they say: diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and programs help organizations comply with civil rights laws by ensuring that all people are on an equal footing in the workplace and in educational and medical settings. So this is why I throw this in the breaking of the norms. That has kind of been the understanding for the last 30 years, up until 8 months ago. So how are we feeling on this whole DEI thing?
It's certainly something. It's certainly
I'm
something.
happy to jump in, but I think a student is jumping in.
Oh, you can go first. You can go first.
Okay, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I really do. And to be frank about it, it's a Republican ploy to get votes. It's been done nationwide. When it came here, this is DEI, the second round. The first round, we weren't supposed to make kids feel uneasy because they had to talk about slavery. Well, okay, let them go out in the hallway if they feel, really upset. That's not even paying decent respect to the students. It's a con job. And we were kind of figuring out what to do about it this time, and so our attorney came up with a nice statement which allows us to do exactly what we were doing before, and it meets it. If somebody doesn't want to hear a conversation, they're free to step out. But it's a false argument. For example, am I, as a teacher, not supposed to talk about black history, which includes slavery and deprivation of rights? And if you want to know about wealth, here's white inherited wealth. Here's black inherited wealth. There's something wrong about that. And I have never ducked that, I never will. And I think our faculty that I know feel exactly the same way. So we just have to be courageous, but I think students need to insist on knowing it. In a classroom I was teaching some years ago, I showed some very harsh films about our own history in Mississippi. And the students were mad afterwards. I said, "Are you mad at me?" They said, "No, we're mad at our history teachers because they never taught us that." In their defense, it was never required. So at USM, you hear it. If you don't want to hear it, then politely excuse yourself, because it's not going to go away.
I wholeheartedly agree. Especially on the first part, that was a strong open to that. But I do think the most frustrating part about it for me is just how they word it. Like when you said it, it's like they're trying to make it seem like we're trying to make sure everyone feels included in this, and that you don't need this specific area or this specific thing just for you. And that's really frustrating that they worded it like that specific. I know it was very intentional how they worded it, because they're making it sound like everyone over here is getting a special privilege and you over here, you're not getting this just because you're white, pretty much. Because we all know who that was targeting. It was targeting the people who needed those kind of support groups. And when I saw that affected campuses pretty much immediately, like the Prism Center, like the room, like I forget exactly what it's called, but the room like right outside of where the Chick-fil-A is, it's basically just gone. And I know a lot of students who like to go in there because it was a safe space for them. It was just a nice, comforting space where they can feel comfortable, where they have to feel like they were being judged or anything else like that. And just seeing it just like vanish in the course of a month, it was really disheartening.
Okay, we do have to take a break, and actually we're going to pick up with some more DEI on the other side.
Research shows that audiences feel positively about businesses that underwrite programming on their community radio station. Research also shows that the audiences are likely to patronize businesses that support community radio programming. The audience also believes that businesses that support community radio care about their community. If you want to build this type of relationship with WUSM's audience, call us at 601-266-4287 to ask about sponsoring programming. It's more than just exposure, it's building a community relationship. Southern Miss Student Media is how USM communication students put their education into action. The student prints, Southern Miss Radio, SMTV, and SM2 Creative are the media properties operated by Southern Miss Student Media. You can get your share of the more than $600 million USM brings to the area with help from Southern Miss Student Media. To find out more about how to reach the USM audience, email sm2sales@usm.edu.
And we are back, and as usual, of course, we continue to chat through the break. Let's continue a little bit with this DEI. I'm feeling that our students, with all this stuff going on, that is the issue that our students have engaged with most deeply, that and perhaps the war in Gaza. So talk to me, students, about this DEI stuff. What are you hearing? What are you thinking? What's going on?
Can I say something to Jathan's point earlier? I think that by dismantling DEI systems, we are deliberately ignoring the disparities that do exist. And in a perfect world, the disparities don't exist. And hopefully, I wish one day in America that we could dismantle DEI appropriately in a world where we don't need it. But right now, we do need it. We know that there are disparities. And if we continue to dismantle things like DEI that try to bridge the gap in the best way that they can, then we're like deliberately ignoring it. And that's coming from a white person perspective on America. Like, of course, I'm sure you don't see any DEI issues because you've never experienced them. I'm so glad you don't. But we are ignoring these disparities that are happening in our communities, towards the LGBT community, towards people of color, towards every single person. And by ignoring and dismantling, we are reducing progress towards the world where we could dismantle DEI.
That's an interesting perspective, right? By seeing DEI as a bridge to something else, which is kind of what the argument has been for a long time. So to take down that bridge, that means we're never going to get to the somewhere else. Dr. Cannell, you're a sociologist by trade. Do these kind of policies matter? Do these kinds of discussions matter about who sits at the table to have these discussions?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a sociologist, I mean, you can't go 5 minutes without talking about race, gender, social class, or any of those things. So if any of you have had Social 101 this semester, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I think, I mean, these are concepts that are integral to, I mean, even if you're like, we're not going to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, I mean, you can't not talk about, race, social class, and all of these things, because, I mean, they're just, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, such an integral part of our lives that, I mean, and there are ways that, we identify. I mean, we identify in all sorts of different ways, but I think part of the problem is that, going back to, I think, a comment that was made down here, is that we do have a situation where we have various groups with very fundamentally different ways of viewing the world and sort of their place in the world and how they want to see the world and what they want the norms and the values to be. And I think we've gotten to a point where those aren't always compatible with each other, so that if I feel like, I can do my thing and you can do your thing, that it's gotten to a point where I can do my thing, but that means that then you can't do your thing, or somehow you're doing your thing is interfering with my doing, my thing. And so, whether or not it's, feelings about, our religion or where we're at in the social class structure or any of that. But it becomes a problem anytime you tell people we can't talk about these things, because could we not talk about these things in the 1960s when we were doing the civil rights movement? I mean, that would be a problem, or in the 1970s with Stonewall, or, going back to the 1920s with the women's rights movement. And a lot of these things, and again, that's one of the things I want us all to remember, is that we tend to focus on processing the moment, but part of the reason why we need historians is because the moment keeps coming back. It's almost like, I feel like, we take a step forward, we take a step back, we make a mistake, we, fix the mistake, but, a lot of these things have been happening. And so, now we're talking about whether or not, women should actually have the right to vote, or should it be a family vote? And to quote Dr. Press here, BS, I'm not giving up my right to vote. Because I think that's ridiculous. But, it's just like all of these things, but not talking about, and the other thing that we need to remember is that, and this goes back to, things like disability. Just looking out of the audience, you can't always necessarily tell, or looking at the stage, who of us have a disability or don't have a disability. But when disability rights first started, this idea that we should have a society, and that's part of diversity, equity, inclusion, is including people with all abilities. But with disability, rights, this idea that if you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't make a difference, you should still be able to get up on the stage. We can't, nope.
We're awful at
So
that.
we're awful, so you can't get up on the stage. So how are we gonna get you up on the stage if you were in a wheelchair? Do we carry you? That's a little embarrassing. But, yeah, platform, so, but all of those things. So you see, cuts in the sidewalk, you see bathrooms with, where you can be, have wheelchair access. All of these things, at the time they were implemented, the American with Disabilities Act was implemented, was very, very controversial. And people are like, no, we shouldn't have to do that. It's too expensive. For those of us who don't need it, why am I paying for people who do need it? That doesn't make any sense because, hey, it's my money, which, I understand. I like my money too, and I like to spend my money. But at the same time, one of the things that we need to remember is that a lot of those things, in fact, benefit all of us. And so sometimes we think of life as a zero-sum game. If you get something, that means I didn't get it. If you got that job, I didn't get it. And there's only so many jobs out there, and especially with this economy, that's how it's starting to feel. There are only so many jobs out there. But, things like, just having access to buildings, you break your leg, you become elderly, all of these things, family restrooms, we tend to think, we don't want, people who we don't want in our bathrooms. But how can we actually create different spaces that benefit all of us? I'm just going to share a story. This is may sound really stupid, but bear with me. I was in Billings, Montana in August, got off the airplane. Of course, the first thing you have to do when you get off the airplane, everybody looks for the restroom. Walked into the restroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on here? You walk in, and it was a bunch of individual rooms with doors, with toilets and sinks in every individual room, and you went in and you shut the door. And I'm just like, why do they have a men's and a women's? They could have just had one big place with men and women. You just go into and if you were a family, you could take your children in there, you could take your luggage in there. It was the first time I didn't feel like I was in here with my luggage and my backpack and all of that. And that was a response to the Americans with Disabilities Act, but then it didn't matter what your gender was going in there. It didn't matter how you identify. It didn't matter anything. Anybody could have used that. And so if we start to think about diversity, equity, inclusion in that way, that it encompasses all of us, rather than it's a zero-sum game, you got it and I didn't, that's something that's helpful for society, rather than what we have now is not going to work.
Okay, so this whole DEI thing is clearly resonating with folks. I'm going to move us along a little bit to, I guess it's a darker topic. Yikes. Breakdown in the rule of law. So just this morning, the New York Times Magazine headline, "Bow to the Emperor." We asked 50 legal experts around the Trump presidency before the election. We asked 50 legal experts about the Trump presidency. Before the election, we surveyed the legal establishment about what a second Trump turn could mean for the rule of law. A year later, they're very, very worried. So, do a little more looking. New York Times, there are 10 executive orders used to justify hundreds of executive actions. So among them, ending funding for agencies Trump does not like, such as the USAID, dismantling the Department of Education without congressional action, and so on and so on and so on. So how are we feeling about this idea of the breakdown in the rule of law? The idea that policies and programs and decisions are being made by one individual as opposed to a constitutional government with a Congress, courts, and so on.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this topic for a little while now, this kind of rise in authoritarian tendencies. And the big question in my mind has been and continues to be, where is Congress? What is Congress doing? Because the only reason this is occurring is because the other parts of the government that are supposed to be a check and a balance on the executive branch aren't doing their jobs, or are doing a pretty shabby job of it anyway. And so I think that there's been a real breakdown specifically in the legislative branch, that the legislative branch is just not doing its job whatsoever in holding the executive to account. In particular, when they have created programs or have already allocated funding to things that the executive just goes, nah. Like, that's literally not how it's supposed to work, right? Your job is to be in control of that. And that lever being taken away, we basically just have a totally non-functional Congress. And that's really bad. I would argue that's really bad. Like, the whole reason for having this system that we have is so that this would not occur. That was the whole point. And so to see it manifesting and people being like, yes, this is what we want, is really bad, I would argue. Now, you can say that some of the things that are happening, maybe we can agree that we don't like USAID. Okay, well, let Congress decide that. That's their job, right? As opposed to the executive making that decision on his own. So as far as like the exact where funding is coming from and what's being dismantled, whatever, we can work through that. But Congress needs to do their job.
Is this hitting with our students?
I will say that it really, really sucks that all of this is happening when I'm like a year from graduating. Not a big fan of it, personally.
Okay. So, for one, where is checks and balances? For two, as someone going into the legal system after college, as someone studying the legal system, minoring in criminal justice, majoring in forensic science, this is a terrifying time. I have literally gone through, with the federal hiring freeze, I have gone through 2 years of waiting for a federal internship, paid internship job that I just found out, last Thursday that I didn't get. That's just crazy. I'm appalled. I'm literally appalled. It's like, it's just so, I don't even have words.
Yeah, well, part of this whole thing is also the chaos, right?
Yes.
Because so for 240 years, you work toward this system. Here's how we get a budget. Here's how we have programs, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, a new president would come in, and there'd be some changes around the edges, some tweaks here and there, but wholesale dismantling, wholesale just orders that would overturn congressional action. We've never seen this before, so that's interesting. So you're feeling the chaos that's part of all this.
Yes, I was supposed to go this past summer to Tennessee to do this internship for the federal government. I was so excited. I spent, over $4,000 on flights, room and board, clothes, all of this, just to find out now that I didn't get it.
So when you mean didn't get it, you mean they
Yes.
shut the program
They
down?
they shut the whole program down.
Okay, that's what I
They-
meant.
they
So
got-
you were told initially.
Yes, I was told that I had gotten it.
Okay.
And then they were like, half of y'all got it, half of y'all need to wait. And so I sat at home all summer waiting, being told, oh yeah, wait another 2 weeks. Wait another 2 weeks.
I'm sighing again, Dr. Hale.
Wait another 2
So
weeks.
sorry. That's awful.
Like, at what point does the waiting stop?
It's horrifying. I get you.
Yeah.
I think that's bad.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
One of the things I want to get to is the military. It's very important. I don't think we have time in this section, but part of what you're suffering from is just pure chaos and government by whim. I used to work for a U.S. Agency for International Development, and to watch them just suddenly close it down, I don't think Trump even understands that program, because basically it's an American program that buys American equipment and sends it overseas. So I'm not sure why the businessmen didn't complain about that. But it's part of a larger thing, which I'll get to later, which is the use of the military for political reasons, and it scares the hell out of me.
And also, I want to point out, I'm so sorry that I'm about to bring this up because I brought it up last time and I went on and on about it, but this is not, the one man is not making the choices. The oligarchs are. The people who are profiting off of our suffering are the ones making the choices, and they will continue to profit if we let them. But this is, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. These oligarchs, they're making these decisions. And we cannot ignore that because they're the ones behind the screen, and we need to look directly at them, and we need to dismantle everything that they're profiting from.
Okay, so there's a lot of chatter out there about this idea of the oligarchy, right? So Russia, 1992, 93, 94, whatever, did away with the Soviet Union, became its own Russian state. The satellite countries then did all their own thing. And within about 6 years, within about 10 years, Russia had gone from a very, very nascent democracy to a dictatorship. And there's a whole series of events that led up to that. But we are going to take a break, and we probably won't pick up with Russia, but we will pick up with this idea of oligarchy and the rule and breakdown of the rule of law after the break.
If you or your business is interested in sponsoring programming on WUSM, we'd love to talk to you about the benefits and opportunities. You can get recognition for your business as well as the appreciation of the WUSM audience. The audience realizes your support provides the programming they listen to daily. In addition, our sponsorship rates are very cost-effective and tax-deductible. To learn more, call 601-266-4287.
And we are back, and as usual, you
Since
see what happens, we
1927.
talked through the break and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, so this is I think that this is such an important idea of the breakdown of the rule of law to where we are we transitioning toward, or are we deeply in right now a totalitarian, authoritarian system? And if we are, what does that mean? What does that mean to us? What does that mean to our students?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. I wrote some notes on it, was so concerned about it. Basically, I think, yes, we are turning towards a totalitarian government, which is really kind of hard to say in a democratic government. We've never seen anything quite like this. We have had moments where the military stepped forward, but there was something called posse comitatus, and basically about 150 years ago, we decided as a nation, no, our military is foreign and it shouldn't be doing domestic stuff. Now, he's running on a skate edge on this, and I think it's going to crash on him, but I'm not sure about the Supreme Court. I'm never sure about the Supreme Court at the moment. Basically, he's talking about, well, we'll just use some of these military folks when they get to these various cities, and they'll use it for training so they can become warriors. whatever the hell that means. They're already warriors, but you don't go around talking that way. You just do it. And if you've watched any of the tapes or listened to most of the moments, not all, there was a few, yay, was the military was brought over here into Washington and asked to be there while the president spoke things that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. He's talking about warrior culture, and the chief of defense minister talked about the same kind of thing. Sending military into various cities, moving them around like dice. The concern by experts is, and neutral experts is, and military, can be measured in words and silence. Most of the military were deadly silent, and that's kind of unusual for the military to be that quiet for that long. They obviously do not buy that issue of being used as political toys to go in and build up what could be a national military thing. So please follow that issue very much. We don't need them. We've got people who are trained. If you need more training, then pay for it. Train and pay for it. Police are always short of money. And they play an important role. They've screwed up a lot of times, but they also are very genuine interest in human rights as a general thing. But remember, the military received that with a thundering silence.
Okay, what else you got?
It's all really scary, I'm not gonna lie. It just feels like he's kind of running rampant and doing whatever he wants, and it feels like he's not really checked in power, which is really scary.
So we're going back to this idea there's no guardrails. The guardrails are down.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
The guardrails are protecting the people with money who are making the decisions.
So for the rest of us,
yeah, it's kind of good luck, I guess.
wow.
And it's crazy. It's just crazy times to live in, honestly. And just watching it unfold in real time, it's really disheartening.
You know, so there was a student that was on the show last week talking about the headlines that she read about in history class she's seeing now. And that was really kind of the genesis of this particular show, is helping our students kind of process this moment in history. And are we going to look back 50 years from now and go, that was the inflection point. It's going to be, and of course I won't be around. You'll probably be around. Grandpa Hale will be around. And are you going to tell your grandchildren, yeah, I was there, and what's that going to look like?
Let me tell you, whippersnappers, what it was like back then. Yeah, I don't know. This is uncharted territory. I don't know what it's going to look like, right? So I think that's why I kind of come back to what I said earlier. We have to be able to engage in these kinds of conversations. We have to have these conversations and to have our voices heard, because if you don't say anything, then it only gets worse, right? It doesn't get better on its own. Like if we are relying upon guardrails that have already fallen, then what stops? Continuous growth of authoritarian tendencies, which I will argue are not good, right? I'll take that stance. I'll die on that hill. I think authoritarianism is probably not a good thing. And so we have to be willing to have conversations and to speak and to have our voices heard. I think it's important. So all of you being here to do that, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, and at some point I will go on my rant about how to fix all this. I really
You have all the answers written down
Please,
somewhere.
please, go on that rant.
I'll go on my rant about how to fix all this. That's quite simple. Simple to say, incredibly difficult to do.
Well, I
right?
guess one of the things we also have to remember, and this has been brought up several times, is if you change the norms, you change the rules, you're assuming you're always going to be in power, and that's not always the case. So what happens when the opposition actually gets into power? And so the thing is, are we thinking that, how do we keep the opposition out of power? So now we're in redistricting, so we're trying to keep the opposition out of power, but is that always going to work? You can ship as many people as you want out of districts, out of the country, out of whatever, but at some point, again, the opposition might be in power, and if you've broken down the rules, that much, are you going to then want them back? So one of the things about boundaries, again, like I said before, we're at a time where people have fundamentally different ideas about how they want the world to look. whether or not it's around, issues of race, gender, social class, and all of these different things. But, again, those guidelines, if we are going to have a country where, we keep going back to the founding, to the founding of our country, what was the Constitution? What did we mean by the Constitution at that point? What did the founding fathers, because we don't think about the mothers, intend? And part of it was, over this last 300 years, trying to set up guardrails so that, no matter who's in power, we don't all implode. And that's sort of, a feeling too. Or even, we are a I can't even say the word, representational democracy. So it's not necessarily one person, one vote. We do, we elect representatives, we elect senators. But one of the things that I'm worried about, and this should worry, regardless on what side of the aisle you happen to find yourself in, is that they are actually shutting down the individual vote. And we've even done this in Mississippi, where we refuse to pass a law so that individual citizens can put a referendum on the ballot so that we can all vote as Mississippians. Because our state legislature is worried about how we might vote. And you would think, well, Mississippi, it's a pretty red state. Wouldn't we all vote as... Actually, they found out in the past that that is not actually the case. So we had a case with birth control where they tried to make birth control illegal in the state of Mississippi. And all of a sudden, people on both sides of the aisle are like, wait, what? What? You can't do that. And it didn't pass. And so the legislature learned their lesson. So now they're trying to prevent that from ever happening again. And again, you should be worried about that as individuals, regardless if you consider yourself, conservative, progressive, liberal, Republican, Democrat, whatever, because if they're taking that away, our individual voice, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So which brings us, I'm sighing a lot. I do. I tend to sigh a lot. So which brings us to this idea of a breakdown of a society based on facts, right? I would argue the fundamental guardrail of any sort of representational democracy is the idea that we have to make decisions based on facts. So a couple of headlines. So this is, again, New York Times. I love the New York Times. If you guys don't get it, it's a good investment. This is from the judge who looked at the suit filed when Trump sent troops to Portland, Oregon. So the judge responded, here's what the judge said. Trump's assertion that Portland is burning down, that was the justification for sending in troops. Portland is burning down is, quote, untethered from the facts, unquote. I thought that was a fine quote. You saw hundreds of headlines in the last month. Tylenol causes autism. And wow, what a pushback from the scientific community that caused. Vaccines are dangerous. Also a major pushback from the scientific community. And then tariffs are somehow making the U.S. economically stronger. At the same time as talking about bailouts for U.S. farmers, right? So how are we feeling and how are our students processing this idea that facts, are they squishy? Can they be squishy? And where do we get our facts, and does it matter where we get our facts? How are our students feeling about all this?
I think that we have lost logic. I think that we have lost the ability to think for ourselves. I think that young, old, everything in between have lost the ability to look at information and process it critically. And I don't know where this happened at. I don't know where the shift happened at. I don't know, AI exists now. It makes everything very easy, very accessible. And so when we look at a lot of things that we engage with, we are just taking the information, and we are not processing, and we've lost this ability to engage and think and ask questions that get us to the next step. And it's for example, with Gaza, why do I have to tell people that kids shouldn't be blown into smithereens? Why is that a thing that is controversial? Why is that a thing that people don't want to hear? I'm confused. Can you not look at that and be like, oh yeah, kids shouldn't die, probably, why is that a thing that we are having to have a discussion about? That's just one example. And I'm like, where in the process of developing as a society, as a nation, have we lost this ability to look at this media and come to our own conclusions? When did this happen? Has it always been this way, and are we just now seeing the effects of it? And because we have no choice but to see the effects of it now in under these extreme circumstances? That's my biggest frustration right now.
See, I think we've lost all of our critical thinking skills, like you're saying. But also, we see these people that are in power, like RFK Jr., who says that Tylenol causes autism and that vaccines cause autism and all these things cause autism. This man was a, crack addict, cocaine addict, had a brain worm, but they see that he's in power and they're like, oh, he's in power, oh, he knows all these things, we trust him.
Well, to be fair, I have yet to meet an actual human being that says Tylenol causes
Yeah.
autism.
Yeah, that's.
I
But-
mean, has
but
anybody
also-
in their circle seen, is it, okay.
But also, it's like online you're seeing all these people that side with him, and for the longest time, vaccines, I don't vaccinate my kids because they cause autism and all this stuff. My brother, he has Down syndrome, he has autism. He was born in 2013. He has autism. It's not because of the vaccines, and scientists have proved this. But no matter how many times scientists say that it's not all of these things that cause autism, they don't believe them. And I think it's because it's people in power that are saying it's these things that cause it. It's more like a group mindset, I guess. I can't, I don't know how to word it.
So one of the things that I think is creating this problem isn't necessarily that we aren't thinking critically anymore, because I think we're the same, right? Humans are still the same. We've never been very good at critical thinking, I would argue. But what we have seen is a real breakdown in the media ecosystem, where the gatekeepers that used to exist, who would do the filtering of facts and make sure that things have been verified before actually distributing it out, that has broken down. And that's particularly relevant to the people in this room, right? Talking to people who are potentially going to be media practitioners and thinking about how that role has dissolved to a large extent, and that is hurting us significantly, I will argue.
Can I say something to that real quick? That is a 100% great point, and I wish I would have mentioned it. I'm jealous. But within the past 20 years, we have seen the shift in media where these companies realized, wait a minute, we could profit off of media. We can make this significant profit off of media, which forces, puts these companies in situations where they're like, okay, that really contributes to how the media is pushed out now, and yeah. Thank you so much for even mentioning that, because I forgot. How could I?
And I want to add one short thing which I think supports both of what you're saying, and that is the idea of political violence. You had the murder of Charlie Kirk. You've had the murder of a Democratic elected official and her husband in Minnesota, which, by the way, the Trump administration just sort of practically ignored, but they highlighted the first one. So under investigation is an explosion that occurred just yesterday, I think, and another political official in New Jersey. The house was either an accident or it was intentional. We don't know. So political violence, we and each of us in this room, each student, can play a part in that by simply lowering the temperature and listening a little more. And if someone's talking crazy, wait till they get done and then try to open a dialogue a little bit. But that's very important, and that's something that each of us can do, because some people are just simply taking it from the media and taking the headlines, which are very often screwed up, and just killing people.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to take a break, and we're going to finish our last segment, I believe. Is that right, Annabelle? And very crazy. And then we're going to ask everybody for some short final thoughts, and I will go on my rant when we come back.
Southern Miss Student Media, SM2, presents the 2025 Southern Miss Student Media Open House, Tuesday, October 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor of College Hall on the USM campus. Come and see the different divisions of Southern Miss Student Media. See how we can help you spread the word about your business through the different media outlets operated by Southern Miss Student Media. Stop by sm2media.com under About and RSVP to register to win advertising packages from SM2. The 2025 Southern Miss Student Media Open House, Tuesday, October 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 3rd floor of College Hall. See you there. Research shows that audiences feel positively about businesses that underwrite programming on their community radio station. Research also shows that the audiences are likely to patronize businesses that support community radio programming. The audience also believes that businesses that support community radio care about their community. If you want to build this type of relationship with WUSM's audience, call us at 601-266-4287 to ask about sponsoring programming. It's more than just exposure, it's building a community relationship.
Okay, and we are back. Wow, I will tell you, this show always goes so fast, and you know, in an hour is never, we know is never enough. But really quick, here's my rant. Hey, here's how to fix all this, right? Now, you'll notice that up here, there really wasn't a lot of defense of President Trump. I do try to keep in my mind that there is a group of folks out there that probably like the direction the country is going. I will say they're not in my circle. And I'm very...
I actually sent a positive text to my sister about the president yesterday.
You did. Good for you.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So I'm not sure good for you or not. I don't know. I can't decide.
Just throwing that out there.
But there's no question that we as a society are incredibly splintered in a way that we've never been before. There was a poll in the New York Times, and this is the direction we are headed in this country. I think that we need to think about this pretty heavily. 80% of U.S. adults say Republican and Democrat voters cannot agree on what a basic fact is. 67% say Republicans and Democrats are interpreting the same information differently. 53%, and this is where we get to the social media that Dr. Hale's going to talk about here in a second, 53% say they are getting different information. So here's my rant on how to fix all of this. In the last election, young people, only less than 30% of young people voted. If young people vote, we have a different country. If young people vote, we have a different country. Call their bluff. They're making it hard for young people to vote. They don't like it when young people vote. So they make it hard. Call their bluff. Find out how to do it, which is actually pretty simple, but it does take some planning, and go vote. That's how you fix it.
I'll follow that up, I guess.
Okay, go.
I don't have a rant, unfortunately. I wasn't ready. There's steam coming out my ears. So social media, right? So we actually had a question that came to us during the break about whether social media was affecting critical thinking, and the answer is yes. Yes, indeed. Probably for sure. So the idea is that when you use social media for your news, you have to be very, very careful about that. Because, as I was alluding to before, this idea of validating information, making sure that it's credible information, on social media, I can put whatever the heck I want out there, and people might believe it. And it might go viral because I said something that was really catchy. But that's not useful, right? We need useful information. And if we are addicted to having information immediately, that it hits us as soon as we want it, I want it now, I want information, I want it to give me a dopamine hit, the fact is, a lot of news just is boring. It's not that interesting, right? And so if I'm only looking for things that are going to really catch my attention and make me excited or angry, then that's what I'm going to get, is more things that make me excited or angry. But that's not reality. And if we live in a reality that has to be that, then we're only going to get either really, really important things, which there are a few of those, or a whole lot of things that were made to be important and exciting or aggravating. And we have to be very careful about that and to really pay attention to where the news is coming from when you look at it and when you read it. Is it coming from a place that's credible, that actually does proper sourcing information, or are we just getting angry about things and not thinking about it? Which, again, I would argue human beings have always been pretty bad about, but at least thinking about it a little bit would be helpful. That's my 2 cents.
Should I give my 2 cents?
You know, like if everybody could give us your 30-second wrap-up, what do you think?
30 seconds.
Actually, well, I mean, facts never stand on their own. I mean, actually with social media, facts can be manipulated very easily. So whether or not what you're actually seeing was a real cat video or not, who knows anymore. But I guess one of the things that I would encourage is get away from the prove me wrong viewpoint, that I'm on this side of the table, you're on that side of the table, and I'm ready with my facts, and I'm going to try to, do you in, and you're trying to do me in with your facts. Sit down and actually sit at the same side of the table, and let's look up our facts and where those facts came from, and why do those facts exist, and why are those people interested in that, and why do these facts exist? And sit on the same side of the table. Don't be across from each other going, prove me wrong, because that's antagonistic, and you're not going to win against somebody who's like, I'm trying to prove me wrong, because they are always going to have a fact, and you're like, wait a minute, can I look that up? And the minute you do that, you've lost. So sit at the same side of the table and look at the facts together, and look at the sources, and then also look at the values that are behind them, and share your values with that other person. And that's how we come together. We don't do it by being across the table with each other. So, and vote. Yes, definitely vote.
To follow up on that, I had a class, and I knew because they told me, they're very conservative NRA folks in the classroom, and I let students do a lot of the work in my classes. So I said, take the question of migrants. Simply, are they a plus or are they a minus? I didn't tell them, didn't say a word. Go out and find out. So they went out in the research, they came back, all of them said, we need migrants. Now, for political reasons, Trump got a winner on that. He got a lot of people upset. But it doesn't mean much. They run hotels, they run businesses, they help the farmers. I was in a meeting with farmers, and they talked against the Republicans, said, we need them. So that argument is kind of a upside-down argument. But let me just ask you, raise your hand if you think we should continue, because there's an argument on the other side to go after migrants as a whole. Raise your hand. Well, maybe there's some people out there who don't want to raise their hand. But I think there's different ways to do it. You don't have to go after them. I mean, yes, if some have gotten here illegally and tried to hide it, or if they're in a gang or something, yeah, get them rid of them. I'm fine. Do it gently. But if they have come here and signed up, they've been given a waiting list. You're on the waiting list. And so they're still on the waiting list. So when ICE breaks down the door, as they did in Chicago yesterday, they don't have their documents. That's true. So why not turn the whole migrant issue upside down and say, let's help them get their documents?
I don't have anything on facts, but know your registration status, know how to vote, know when to vote, know your representatives, know that you can message them whenever, you can send them letters, you can email them, you can do all that. I've done it before with this federal hiring freeze. You can do all of that. Know all of your elected officials. Just go out and vote, please.
Yeah, I second that. Voting's very important, very big on that. But my general closing thoughts would be, don't be afraid to talk to other people. I know that sounds very simple, but it really does mean something. If you don't listen to other people who might think differently than you, or don't have a different viewpoint than you, you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow. I took a class about conflict not too long ago, and conflict, it sounds scary, but it's important, because that's how we grow as people and individuals, how we grow together as a community. So I'm sure there's someone out there who's watching this or listening who absolutely disagreed with something we said up here. Tell us, say something. We'd love to see you up here, and we're not gonna belittle you. We wanna hear you out, because hearing out other people and different views is how we're gonna grow as people. So don't be afraid to talk to someone who might just see the world a little bit differently, because that's how we're gonna actually start getting somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything everyone said, and yeah, these are really great points. And back to what Dr. Press was saying, regarding migrants, this is a migrant nation. Unfortunately, this is a nation of migrants. All of us are. This is a nation of migrants. That's the only way to put it. I mean, we cannot the right to exist wherever you exist is a human right, is a human right. Just like food is, just like water is, the right to exist is one of those things that we should not have to talk about and address, and that is directly targeting. This issue of immigration is directly targeting people who have the right to exist wherever they want to exist on this rock that we live on, that we have utilized and like separated and done all these things with. And yeah, I think voting is important, but also I think you should, because statistics are skewed, and you should engage with statistics in knowing that what factors contributed to this outcome of this specific thing that I'm reading right now, this research. You know, like, because there is human error with everything that we do, but with knowing that, and with also having this social understanding that of what is morally right and what is morally wrong, like a just society. We all collectively agree murder is bad. We all can collectively agree on a lot of things. And so with that same thought process, with that same critical engagement, you can look at these statistics, look at these facts, or look at these statistics that are labeled as facts, and know that there could have been something that changed whatever, but how you interpret it is very important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And please see Maddie for human rights organizations that are available and looking for members right now, and officers.
Yep, there you go. Wow, what a great panel. Thank you all very much. Yay! Yay! Okay, I'm going to leave you with one final fact. You know, as the world swirls to wherever it's swirling, the song Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters has been viewed 475.7 million times on YouTube. There you go. Wow. So the world is not completely dark and angst and everything. Okay, so this has been an extraordinarily special production of Southern Miss Student Media. Our producers are Annabella Laird and Lily Burkhardt. Yay! Our producers. Woo, 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 woo. Dr. Wilbur Martin is our station manager. Thank you very much, Wilbur, for pulling us all together. And our technology manager is Dalton Stafford. Thank you for all of your help. And this is really, truly an expression of our student workers and our student media folks. I'm sorry I don't have all your names, but thank you very much. And News You Need will be back at its regular time this Friday at 12:30.
Thank you all.
This has been the live News You Need event, Processing the Moment.
Come see Maddie and sign up for human rights.
Hattiesburg.
And watch K-pop Demon Hunters.